they signed OG to the extension, and a lot of rumors were circulating about that. And New York Knicks immediately put that to ice, and they're bringing OG back.
You're thinking in the sense of when they trade for Bridges that might
OG.
signal that OG's on his way out.
Yes,
I get it. I love this move.
I just
love
how can
this.
you not?
I mean, the Villanova boys are together. I mean, this is like, man, imagine if me and our friends got together, we were on the NBA team. Like, this is what's happening. This is what they're doing. This is super cool. This is good for basketball, good for New York. I'm happy as hell about this. This is really cool. This is a trade I'm really happy happened.
Well, the New York Knicks made a crazy deal to where they pretty much gave up every available asset they had as far as draft picks and Bojan, okay, and which is a guard, moving him over to Brooklyn, and Brooklyn sends over Mikal Bridges, who that was my number one and pretty much only player in the entire league that I wanted Philadelphia 76ers to grab. So that sucks. And makes the New York Knicks a really tough team. And then today they, signed OG to the extension. And a lot of rumors were circulating about that. And New York Knicks immediately put that to ice, and they're bringing OG back.
You're thinking in the sense of when they trade for Bridges that might
OG.
signal that OG's on his way out.
Yes.
I get it. I love this move.
I just
how
love
this.
Can you not?
I mean, the Villanova boys are together. I mean, this is like, man, imagine if me and our friends got together, we were on the NBA team. Like, this is what's happening. This is what they're doing. This is super cool. This is good for basketball, good for New York. I'm happy as hell about this. This is really cool. This is a trade I'm really happy happened.
This is a great deal for the Knicks, especially bringing OG back, because having OG and Mikal on the wings, this really sets them up for Boston. Now, what happens, when a team wins a championship in any league, what happens is the league tries to adjust to that team to make sure that team does not, run away. Especially if they make it look easy.
Well, you just know when somebody wins a title, like, that's who we got to beat.
That's who we got to beat.
It's not even that they're running away. It's like you got to beat that if you want to go anywhere.
And if Boston had three, whatever, or a dominant big man, then it would have been different. But because of the wings kind of control the success of that team, that's what the Knicks have done. Now they're strong on the wing. OG and Mikal can compete with Tatum and Brown on the wing. But then you have all of these, special role players like Josh Hart and DiVincenzo, and then you have your star guard, okay, and Brunson. They can do some damage in New York, and they will do some damage. Now, this has to mean the two bigs are not coming back, at least Hartenstein, because Hartenstein, he would have to take a pay cut to come back. And that sucks. We talk about that all the time. But he just would have to because of all this money they're throwing around. And also, he's a good big. I mean, you know what I mean? So there are going to be teams that are going to throw some good big numbers at him. And, he's a current free agent. So that has to mean he's out of here. And then at that point, you have to do what you can to keep Robinson in. But I much rather take this route. And then if you have to go minimum contracts, go to the garbage can for some bigs who can just rebound and play defense, you just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it. I would prefer there's a scenario where they can keep the rest of the roster together with the exception of Julius Randle. But, it'll be disappointing if they have to lose, one or both of those guys. Again, that's why I hate salary cap and all that stuff, because it's, Hartenstein's a guy like they've and Mitchell, both. Like, those are not, like, high lottery guys that they lucked themselves into. Those are guys they developed, and they've both become good NBA guys. And I hate to see them have to go. I hope there's a way that it doesn't have to come to that.
No, that's for sure. And then also I forgot about the Julius Randle piece. I didn't even name him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like a lot of people say, oh yeah, then you can't forget Randle. He's this high. I think we're both as low on Randle as one can be, and if they can move him, and get a piece or two, as far as big men, that would be helpful, and I'm sure they're looking at that. I
just don't. I mean, here's the thing. Like, Tibbs is not big on, like, a lot of rotation in the roster.
Yeah.
And you've got these guys and OG, and you're going to have to play some bigs with this group. Like, I don't think there's a real role for him anymore that that suits him. Now, he has his flaws as a player, but he's a player.
Yeah.
And he he needs a certain role to do what he does. And I think it's just mutual for both parties, him and the Knicks, that he do that somewhere else.
Yeah.
But Julius Randle is the type of player that was good for the Knicks when he got there. Like, he's a guy that can score, that can kind of do some things. And if you're not a particularly good team and you're kind of, try to get up a level, he's not a bad fit for that because he can go, consistently score in NBA regular season games.
Yeah.
And he'll give you something there. And I don't think he's an asshole or a bad guy. So I think, he'd be good for the right team, but I don't think it's the Knicks anymore.
It'd be interesting to see where they go. And I don't even want to play the game of, where do you see the Knicks right now? Can they compete with this or that team? Because this team is not complete yet. We don't know what's going to happen with Julius. We don't know what's going to happen with Hartenstein and some of these other characters here. So, once that does happen, we'll revisit that and see when this team is complete.
Well, and arguably, like, none of the teams are complete. I mean, we're
Yeah,
drafting guys right now.
Yeah.
There's going to be a free agency window that opens up, and we have to see where all those pieces land. And, you'll have the secondary free agent market, and you'll probably have some off-season trades as well. And you got to just see where everybody stacks up next year.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, 76ers literally have 2 players on their roster. So, and that's another thing, man. With Philly, talk about bad luck. Bad luck, bad planning. Everything is just going to the shitter right now. And, you got the Paul George news coming out where he's not really interested in Philly. And it's funny because he's currently on the team with Harden, and Harden just had that big blow up with, I mean, with Daryl Morey. So, I'm sure James is in his ear saying, yeah, well, that's the last place you want to go. And so, he doesn't want to come to Philly, and we're kind of counting on that. Then OG resigns, so we're not going to get OG. Okay, not going to get Mikal. And where the only option is really Brandon Ingram or bust. And I don't want Ingram.
Nah, I don't want him at all.
And you make this plan to have this cap space in this year, and it just sucks that this year there's nobody that, that's worth a max contract.
I'm not a huge fan of cap space because I feel at the end of the day when players move, it's usually not pure cap space. They're picking where they want to go, and if it comes down to it, there'll be a sign and trade of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, so many of the bigger moves, that's what happens at the end of the day. And so, like, to sit there and basically position yourself to have cap space without an understanding that a player's definitely coming is almost idiocy in terms of a planning perspective.
Yeah.
At this level, I don't think it's the route to go. I think you need to accumulate assets literally at all times, and some of those assets could be expiring contracts or draft picks or whatever, so that when it comes down to, this guy wants to not be at his team anymore, or even when he's a free agent, it's going to make more sense to sign and trade him. That's what you've got to be prepared to engage in, and not just clear the cupboard and hope that you could sign somebody straight up. That just doesn't seem to be the model for most big guys moving.
Yeah, it doesn't. All right, let's get into a little draft talk here. Okay, so there's already been a trade. So really quick, so we know the Hawks took Zach Frenchman here, Zach Researcher or whatever. He's a guard forward. Okay, and then you had Washington Wizards took Alex Sarr, another Frenchman. Okay, and like we said, he wanted to go to Washington. We have no idea why, but that was the team he wanted to go to all along.
Alex, you're an NBA player. Diplomatic immunity is not important.
So he gets his wish. Okay, he'll be over there with Kuzma in the gang. Then Houston Rockets take Reed Shepherd, okay, the guard from Kentucky.
The great British player.
And he's a really good shooter there, a really, really good shooter, and he's athletic. So we'll see how that pans out. And Houston actually is another team that kind of racked up on some picks last night, and they're trying to pull away Durant or Booker from Phoenix. So they're trying to. They have plenty of assets. So we'll see how that goes. Now the Spurs at number 4, they took Stephon Castle, okay, the guard from UConn, okay. So how do you like that pick for Wemby and the Spurs?
He's a very good two-way player, tough guy. I think it's a solid pick. And I said this before the air, like this is the type of draft that if you started at pick 7 and picked these players, you'd be happy. But picking any of these guys prior to 7 is a little uncomfortable. I don't think Castle's a star. I think he'll be a very good NBA player, but not an all-star. I'll be surprised if he is. Okay. But again, he is what I think he'll project as is a really solid two-way player.
Yeah.
And if the Spurs want to surround Wemby with that, that's probably not a bad thing.
Okay. And we'll look to see if the Spurs make any additional moves in this offseason, like Trae Young or DeJounte Murray or some of those other guys. Detroit take and I'm sorry, yes. So Detroit Pistons, they take Ron Holland, okay, guard from G League, okay, and let's see here. He once was he was once number 1 in the draft class, so you got that going. Okay, but he had a rough G League. I'm sorry, he had a rough time in the G League.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not a good thing if you were once number 1 and you're not number 1 now. Like that, you're not trending in the right direction. So
yeah.
I mean, come to think of it, who's ever succeeded in that spot?
That's tough.
I mean, you got Amani Bates, like he's fucking G League guy.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a guy that was regarded as the number 1 guy in his class and fell from that things went well for.